All right, we are here with oh my gosh, this is my this is my dude who honestly if it wasn't for this person that we're about to talk to, I would have probably never done this podcast. I would have never. So let me just say, welcome Dr. William Smith.
Thank you for having
Oh,
me.
because not everybody is watching this. Some people are just listening. So I want to make sure I say your name and who you are. And but before we dig into you, like I said, I wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for you because Dr. Will Smith is who I did my last podcast. We had a podcast together, Making Money in the Music Business, and it lasted. We went up to about 180 episodes, right?
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a
It
long,
was
long, long span of time.
long span of time. And when I was like, I don't think I can do it anymore, Will, I have these other things. You just gracefully, it's fine, girl. Do you?
Yeah, I don't fight the universe. I learned you don't fight the
You
universe.
don't fight the
You just
universe.
gotta let it flow.
Gotta let it flow. Well, we're gonna dig more because you are a special human with a
Thank you.
lot of obvious talents, but you've got you're this quiet storm inside, and I want people to get to know you outside of maybe how they see you as, in your music element. But before, I'm going to read something to you so that people know.
Okay.
I know. I'm going to read about you a little bit. And
I
don't
hope it's good
worry,
stuff.
it's good stuff. This is all public information.
Okay. All
But
right.
this is a way for our audience to get to know who you are a little bit more professionally and what you do in the world. So let me read it a little bit to you. Okay.
All right.
Dr. William E. Smith, otherwise known as Wes, you'll see that WES, is a composer producer with a unique sound who's able to create music to fit any mood. I'm sorry, any mood and situation from jazz, hip hop, rock, pop, orchestral, ambient, world, or EDM. Okay, that's a lot of range. That's a lot of range. Dr. Smith holds a PhD in ethnomusicology and degrees in jazz composition and jazz studies. He's composed and produced numerous albums for himself and other artists. And he has a number of television and film placements, including, all right, you guys listen to this, including his music has been played on The Voice, Fox Sports, Steve Harvey Show, The Carson Daly Show, Real Housewives of Miami, a PBS documentary, and several independent films. As a performer, Dr. Smith has performed and recorded with many ensembles and a variety of genres, including, okay, listen to these artists, and this is it. We could go on, but James Moody, Donald Byrd, Kenny Burrell, Wynton Marsalis, John Hendricks, Fred Hammond, Hezekiah Walker, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Wayna, Astor Awiki, Asheru, Adisi, and Cinda Williams. Oh my gosh. And honestly, I could probably keep going on, but I'm stopping there. I'm stopping there because we
Yeah.
didn't even we didn't even get into you as an educator. But what did it feel like to hear me read that to you?
Just blessed. I mean, I walk this every day. I wake up and I'm just like I'm blessed. I see the lake that I live nearby, and I'm like, okay, that's a blessing. Actually, that's what I was doing in my walk today. I was just like, oh, thank you for the colors, thank you for the air. Thank you. I was just rolling out the thank yous, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a blessing to number one to make it this far because you talk
Mm.
about finding your voice after 40. I'm about to hit the next decade after that
I
next month.
know. We both are in that space. Yeah, you're
So
closer than me, but we're both
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, it's a blessing to be in this rarefied air, and
Mm, mm,
that's the start. I'm I know that um, a lot of the stuff that has happened, and we can get into why and how things get set up, but I know the reasons why all this stuff has happened is just my focus and intent, but it's just the creator just making it happen because a lot of this stuff I couldn't plan none of none of those things. It just came around
It's
because
too big,
of
right? It's too
yeah,
big to
exactly,
have. It's too amazing to plan.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, well, to start this conversation with you is challenging because I've known you since we were 17, 18 years old.
Hmm.
And like we just said, we're entering the next decade after the 40s. So that's a really dang long time
Yes, it is.
to be
Yes,
connected.
it
And
is.
that is a massive, massive blessing. But maybe let the audience know a little bit about how what for you maybe growing up in your think about more of your adolescence and 20s, that early part of life. Did you know that, yep, this is how I'm going to go in my adulthood, is to be
Mhm.
as a musician, and that's what, I'm going to spend my life dedicated to? Or was there another situation going on for you?
There's definitely another situation. I was actually more interested in art, visual art, when I
Mm,
was younger, and I was blessed again to be in a accelerated program in elementary school and middle school.
mhm.
And they took us out of school. I think it was once a week, and we would get a chance. I mean, this is like revolutionary now for education. I think back, I'm like, I was in that. You know, they took us out of school once a week, and we would get to explore. Like we
Imagine
explored
that.
archaeology, astronomy. We was like movie making. We were exploring everything and art, and I just gravitated towards visual art. And so it was two, it's like elementary and middle school. So by the end of the middle school, like all my stuff was in the visual art. Like I had a
Mm,
drawing in the paper, and but there was a teacher there who's really influential for me, Mr. Everhart. I don't even know if he's still alive, but
mm.
um, but yeah. So that was what I was focused on, and it's interesting when I did a post about my latest placement. One my friend, my best friend at that time in middle school, he commented on LinkedIn.
Oh,
It was
wow.
so cool. It was just like,
Wow.
and he said he remembered me doing music back then, and I have no memory of me doing music back then. I was like visual art. I was like,
Right, but it was in you. And I think this is what's so kind of crazy when we reflect back to our child stuff. If we
mhm,
really dig and sit patient with it, there's so much of what we'll say, "Oh, I never dreamed of doing this." But if you really sit back, or if somebody reminds you, you were doing such and such, it's like, "Was
mhm.
I? Oh, that's right, I was." Cuz so it's always with us. It's
Yep,
always with
it
us.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
I do remember in middle school, one of the things I was in the band, the concert
Mhm.
band, and I think the last year, my last year of middle school, I said, "Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to do band anymore." You know, and when they were playing the last concert, it hurt me.
Mm.
I was upset that I was not on stage playing, and
Mm.
that's probably one of the catalysts that helped me focus and say, "No, I really do like music, and you need to focus on it."
I love that. And that's so funny because I don't know what that's about. I did the same thing going from middle to high school. I was in band all the way from
Uh-huh.
3rd grade. And then when it was time to go to high school, I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with music. And
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I don't know, in my brain at that age, I thought, okay, I'm going to high school now. Like
Yeah, I get serious,
I
you
gotta
know.
get serious here. I can't. This is fun stuff. Like this is kids play, And yeah, and I had the same sentiment when I would watch people. I'm like, I could do that. Wait a minute. I could do that maybe even better. That was my
Mhm,
ego then. Like I could actually do that better. So
mhm.
that's funny. That's funny. Well, now, I mean, and as we those of you who are watching on Patreon, and if you can't see Will, if you're just listening, you need to head on over to our Patreon. You do a lot of things, and I am including you in our Art Voices Matter kind of heading. We're doing a segment or series every other week or so. We bring in artists intentionally because I think it's really important for more public people to understand creatives, because
Right.
this to me is the way, as we keep moving and trucking along, our ability to rely more in our creative selves is going to
Mhm.
be more and more important.
Yep.
And it's not just for young people. This is, I think, particularly loud as we age to get into, to more of our creative self. So you're part of that. But it's funny because you you do so many things. You do so many wonderful things. And I was like, do I put them in an Art Voices Matter part, or do I just
I'm a
So
hybrid.
you are a
I'm
hybrid.
in my left and right brain are walking hand in hand. Like they're like, yay, you know. And it's been a challenge sometimes, but it's actually served me well in a lot of situations. I have this scientific streak that has
Mhm.
allowed me to actually go into things and deal with it,
Mhm.
compartmentalize. But then the blessing is having the artistic streak that
Yes.
that embraces all the emotional stuff,
Yes.
and it's just knowing when to switch it on or how to switch it. Sometimes you can't control that, but it's just it
Well,
is
the
what
other
it
part
is.
of that is you're a Libra.
Yeah.
And, we're going to be, if we haven't already, by the time your episode airs, I believe that our astrologer will have already been on. But you are very beautifully a Libra. And that Libra needs that balance and that harmony
Yep.
and that alignment in order to feed and inform each other. So it's a
Yep.
really big deal. Yeah. 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 So I want the audience to know just a little bit more about outside of the music. You're also an educator. And so
Hmm.
how did you're going through life, you knew music, you knew stage, but then somewhere a pivot happened because you have a PhD, just like I read, and you sit in spaces of education. So when did that come to light, and how did that come to light?
Well, that was so. College, of course, Howard was the huge
HU.
influence.
We have to say
HU,
that.
you got me.
Tuck it in there.
Totally. No, that was the time. I didn't know. Okay, my plan coming to Howard was to be a full time performing musician,
Mm.
and I was trying to really develop my craft and get to a certain point on the saxophone. And then as I progressed in what I probably maybe around junior year, I was watching Dr. Dawkins, and I was like, Dad, this is the sweetest gig you could have. I mean, he doesn't even come in on Friday.
You don't even come.
He don't even. It's like, and then he got summers off, and he got
Okay.
winters off. I was like, wait a
Right.
minute.
Right.
You know what? I could still play, and I could still teach college. And then, bam,
Mm,
that was it.
that was
So,
it.
and then of course, he pulled me aside and told me to go ahead and get a PhD in ethnomusicology. He's the one that sort of guided me in that
Did you
direction.
have any resistance with that? Because again, it's kind of, especially in music, I think sometimes we think, even if we do decide we're going to kind of be in the educational space, that PhD can be like, I don't know, but any
Uh,
resistance from you with that?
from me, no, no. I mean, I have like this, study mind anyway. Like I'm very interested in things. So
Hmm.
if when he talked about it, he said, getting your PhD is going to give you a bunch of options. So if you just get a DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts, you'll just be performance focused. But if you get a PhD, then you can teach on the philosophical side, and you can get some other jobs. I was like, okay, well, sounds good to me. And
Yeah.
I think anyway, my brain is just firing all the time. So it wasn't a stretch for me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's dig a little bit more into this brain of Will. Let's go into the personal, because I the other part of doing the Art Voices Matter is not just to pay homage to our art and our craft, which is super duper important, but also to your you, and to who is the human behind the artist or the educator in music. So when you think about yourself and you think about how at this stage of life, after this 40, how you're taking care of yourself, maybe explain to our listeners what is self-care look like for you at this stage of life, and
Mm,
how does that impact maybe you as just you, but as an artist, like, is
okay.
there something that it's doing that also helps with that?
That I probably have to think about, but the
Hmm.
self care aspect is there's of course the mental and the physical, and then the spiritual aspect.
Hmm.
So you got to work on all three at some point during the day to keep to keep things flowing.
People are
In
like,
the
during the day I was gonna wait for the body at the end of the year, but you're saying
nah, it's a daily thing.
it's a
You
daily
gotta
thing.
like I walk every day.
Mhm.
And I'm trying eating the right things and trying to find. Took a minute to find out what are the right things for me, for my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after you do that, you figure that out, do the physical stuff, and then the mental stuff. Always be pouring positivity, tough stuff to make you think in a different way, to grow. And
Mm.
then on a spiritual space, you got to be meditating.
Mm.
You have to quiet your mind. You have to allow the universal to take over.
That's
That's
interesting. You said you gotta be
You
meditating
got
because
to be.
a lot of people still. I think there's still a lot of challenge. I offer meditation monthly free to our community via Zoom, just a virtual meditation, just so people can at least get a taste of it. That's why I make it free. But when you say you gotta be, tell me more about that urgency.
Well, the urgency of it is, with your brain like mine, always firing and working on stuff all the time. Um, you don't give an opportunity for everything to settle,
Mm, mhm,
and if your body stays in stress all the time, then it's going to be firing the stress hormones, and it's going to cause whatever going on. I mean, there's a whole study done on that. You can
mhm.
just I mean, there's so many people talking about that,
Right.
from Bruce Lipton, Dispenza,
Mhm,
whoever. What's the other guys? Like Greg Braden. There's so
mhm,
many people covering the stress hormone aspect, and if you don't stop that stress act, activity,
mhm.
then you don't allow the natural flow of your body to heal itself. And that's what the meditation aspect does. It's quieting the mind and stopping the
Mm,
thinking.
mhm.
And yeah, Osho has a good, um, maybe I can give you a link to it. A buddy of mine just sent it to me.
Okay.
He talks about stopping the thinking, and
Huh.
it was a beautiful way of him expressing. It was just like, just watch. And I've already heard, just watch your thoughts and all that. But the way he said it, it was just like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, meditation. Thank you for explaining it like that and what you're talking about how important it is to calm the stress. And it's not so much about making your brain just completely blank. It's just trying to get you in a more even neutral space because all day
Right.
long we're firing off,
Yep.
especially now,
Yep.
especially now. So at what stage of life did you really start taking your self-care differently? Or has this always been your practice throughout 20s, 30s, 40s?
It's always been a practice. I mean,
Wow.
I
Yeah.
think, let me think. Well, 96 is when,
That's a while back. That's a
yeah,
good while back.
that's when I focused.
Uh,
That's when I focused on meditating. That's when I became a vegetarian.
okay.
Um, it was like everything sort of coalesced at that point.
Mm.
And I just like honed in on, okay, I need to develop myself. I need to get to the Jedi level. I've been Padawan. Let's make this happen.
Right, right. And so was there an event that happened or like what 96 like what was special
um,
about that time frame? Cuz you're in your
it,
20s at that point.
mhm,
So, yeah.
mhm. A buddy of mine, same buddy who sent me the video, I'll
Mhm.
send you. Um, yeah, we had a lot of good talks, and he had actually grown up, part of his early years in an ashram
Mm.
over in
Ooh,
India,
okay. Okay.
and with Sai Baba, and he was telling me about the experience, and just breaking a lot of different things down for me that I had come in contact with, but he
Mhm.
was explaining it in a way that I really understood it. And it was actually my PhD program that made me buckle down and just like really
Ah.
focus, because I had been thrown so many philosophical concepts. I was like,
Uh-huh.
but this stuff has merit, but it's missing something. It's like, the theoretical stuff. It's like, yeah, but y'all are missing something. And so I stopped reading everything. And
Mm.
my first semester in that winter, I broke down. I got the Idiot's Guide to Yoga, and I read. I read also Autobiography of a Yogi,
I say don't
and
sleep on the idiots guides because
don't
they
sleep.
listen. Don't sleep on them. Yeah, they've
It'll
been
help
around a
guide
long
you.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll point you in
yeah,
different purposeful directions. So I
yeah.
read Idiot's Guide, read Autobiography of Yogi, read what is that? Heal, healing Healing Wisdom of Africa, I think.
Oh, wow.
Maladona Some.
Okay.
Um, and then there was another book by a Cherokee
Mm,
um, uh, shaman, and it was just like, yeah, the Wind is My Mother. That's the name of that one.
okay. You're giving some good books. So I hope everybody is. I might have to come back and say, okay, so we can put some of these things in our notes. But yeah,
That is,
absolutely.
all of that
The
stuff will
wind
open
is her
you up.
mother.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wind is My Mother, and it was just like, okay, yeah, now I'm getting the concept, and I'm getting what makes sense to me. And so when I
Mm-hmm.
came back to my PhD program, I was like blown away, putting everything down, and it just going hard. It was just like I know what I think and believe now, so I'm good.
Yeah. 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 No, so you've been on this self-care journey then for a long time. You've been in this space for a long time. And I want us to shift gears a little bit. Um, as I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh Lord, I know I can talk to Will forever, but because I want to give voice more to artists, and as you're watching the way art is moving nowadays, what do you think is missing for artists when it comes to their self-care? Like, I don't know if many artists do what you do, which is really be very intentional and make it a practice. What is that about? Why, especially you're in the jazz community. There's so many jazz great artists who have had premature lives as a result of lifestyle and so forth. But now just kind of looking what what do you think that's about for artists? Why do you think this is a challenge sometimes for the self-care?
It can be challenging to be connected to um, the spiritual energy as an
Mm,
artist,
mm,
and to have that flow through, to be more sensitive. It can be a bit more challenging. You're not able to shut it off,
mm,
and so artists will try to quiet that sometimes, and they're trying various ways of quieting it,
mhm,
and sometimes it's over medicating
mhm,
in different ways, and or whatever it is, they're just acting out, and they just have to release the energy somehow. So
mm,
um,
mm,
they don't have the tools,
mm,
and no one's really showing them how to do it.
mm.
So
Do you think
that's
artists are receptive to those tools? Because I wonder if sometimes artists, because we all intellectually know we should be taking care of ourselves, right? But you made a good point as far as that connection that artists kind of have and how things can be overwhelming. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answer to these questions either completely. So,
Well, we had these things set up in the more earth-based societies. So if you go back, to Africa, you go to Asia, a lot of different places. A lot of the people that were considered crazy or sort of a little bit screw loose, they would be the shaman. They would be the
mm-hmm,
one that they're connected to the other side,
mm,
and there was more leeway and more training provided for them to guide that process and guide their thoughts and feelings in the right
mm,
direction.
mm. Yeah. And so interesting then. It's curious you said, or interesting you said that. Do you think now, given everything that's happening in the world and the shifts that are happening, we can it's not so crazy to be crazy now, or like in other words, having access to maybe other realms or being able to, you know, do we have more access to that energy and maybe that's going to be more helpful?
Well, I think the veil to
Mm,
that world or that energy source is being, you know, either eroded or made less, dissipated. It's coming through more and more, and
mhm,
people are experiencing it more and more. Um, I I don't have. I'm not the one to tell you to, oh, planetary,
That would
vibrational.
that would be me. No, just like because I'm all into astrology. I'm like, oh, well, the planets because of the alignment right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the one to tell you that. I can tell you just from my own personal experience, of how I've dealt with things and how I've seen other people deal with things, that I'm more of a pragmatic, spiritualist. It's like,
Mm,
how how have we done this before, and what's worked. And then I've seen stuff work. Like, I've seen some stuff. Like, I've really seen some stuff, and so I know what's possible.
okay.
So, yeah, and that's the blessing. Like, I've been to the ashrams, and
Yeah.
I've seen what's possible. So
Yeah.
it's having that experience. You realize that, man, we're on some, the vibrational levels we have to cut through are kind of slow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know how to raise your vibration, there's so many things available to
Well, there we go. Well, we could keep going on a tangent because that,
you.
and I
I
think
can
as
walk you down
artists,
that rabbit hole because I've
yeah,
seen it.
and artists have, I think, because I do think if you're a practicing artist, meaning you actually publish art
Right.
in some kind of way or release it or perform it or what have you, you're resonating on a frequency that is so in line with everything you're saying. So that access, I think that's why there's a certain natural high with really getting in arts because you're literally on another vibration. At the same time, I think because society is so dummied down from that, you can start to feel like that's not something that's I'm too powerful or I'm too much or whatever. And like you said, to quiet things down, maybe just so I can be quote unquote normal for a minute, we'll
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have, the perspectives, you don't have the tools to see things, or to guide things, and you're given, like, Coltrane energy. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to do. I mean, you're like, okay, I'm jumping off the walls here. I have no idea what that is, and,
Right.
like, unless you know who that is, or know how he channeled it, or
Right.
know how others channeled it, you just don't have a frame of reference.
Mm,
And a lot of these young artists, they don't know what came before,
mm,
so they don't know what's possible. They don't know, uh, their greatness.
mm,
They don't When they see it, or when they experience it, they don't know what that is.
mm. Yeah. And society, I don't think helps at all. Sometimes, like you brought up John Coltrane and way ridiculously beyond what his era of what society was attempting to kind of be. But he still, you know, let his art be what it was.
Hmm.
And it penetrated in a way that to this day we can still have long conversations and, analysis over.
He didn't care
So,
about money, which was
yeah.
odd, but he didn't care anything about the money. But he became such an icon, and that song, "My Favorite Things," went to number one on
Hmm.
the pop chart. On the pop chart.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
that's what happens when you're in alignment.
Yes. Well, so that line right there, that's what happens when you're in alignment. And I don't think this is unique to artists. I mean, this is the point. I want to be able to give voice to artists because I don't think a lot of times we get to hear from artists kind of what's kind of happening behind the scenes for them. But what you're saying as far as that alignment piece, no matter what you're choosing as your, what is your purpose or gifts or careers or whatever, that alignment is what then blooms so much. That's
Yep.
what blooms. So, okay, again, we could keep going in our, esoteric. And I actually, I'm gonna still keep a little bit of esoteric stuff in here. But what are you looking now that you've admitted that you're gonna hit the next decade shortly soon, and maybe by the time this airs, you might have already your segment may already have happened. What are you looking most forward to at this stage of life?
Um, it's pretty much, it's the similar thing, but what I'm enjoying now, is people, I guess, get hung up on numbers. So, okay, I'll ride with it. I could tell people I'm 50 and you get a certain type of respect. I'm like,
Right.
okay, that's cool. I'll take it. I mean, I was, joking around with my wife. I got my AARP card.
Yeah, I
I'm like,
know.
I'm,
Okay.
I, I'm official.
Ah,
So
yeah. Listen, don't sleep on the AARP. They got some good stuff. I was like,
discounts.
really?
I'm
Yes.
all
I was,
about the discounts.
and 50 is not what 50 was when the AARP
Mhm.
was so they're
Mhm.
having to really change their brand to really
Yeah.
meet the needs because yeah, this it's a number. It really isn't about the
You don't look
energy.
it. I don't
No.
look it.
No.
So I'm just gonna be happy.
We're just gonna keep going. We're just gonna keep going.
That's
So it
it.
sounds like you're just gonna continue to live in the flow.
That's well. What I'm doing is really I'm trying to build on what I have done already,
Okay.
and physically, spiritually, and mentally. I'm trying to continue to grow and expand that development side of myself, and hopefully, I'll be like Super Master Jedi level, and be walking through the walls and things and saying, "What's
Yeah,
up,
y'all
Kenya?"
listen to this. Listen to
You
this.
know,
Now the people are like, "What? What?"
hey, yeah, because I grew. Look, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so
Yeah,
um, I
yeah.
I grew up with as I saw Empire in the theater. I was too young to see the original one in the theater, but I saw Empire in the theater, and it had such a big effect on me ideologically and
Hmm.
the whole concept. I guess that guided me to now. I'm just like,
Yeah,
that's that spiritual connection. The force
the
is
force is
all
with you.
around,
Oh,
and
it's all
the force is
around,
with
always
us.
with you, always with you. Well, sci-fi is not is quite true. So in many ways, it allows us to start exploring our powers and all of that. So well, this has been amazing, and it's way too short because I have even more questions. But I want to make sure because you do some really amazing things musically, and I want to make sure
Thank you.
that people you're welcome, are clicking into your music. So maybe share how can people follow you on either social media or elsewhere, and what big things are you working on right now that we may be able to dig into?
Well, West Music Pro is pretty much where you'll find me. Instagram, West Music Pro, and then the website, wesmusicpro.com, but also greatmediamusic.com is another one of my sites.
Great media music.
Yeah, Great
Yeah.
Media Music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is actually, at this present time, I'm building up the catalog. That's sort of why I knew it was time to shift from the podcast to build the
Yeah.
catalog. And yeah, it was just great to be able to have the time to actually focus to build it up, and that's what it's going to be moving forward. That and some of the production. Yes, I'm on BeatStars like all the other producers, and I've sold some beats, so I guess my stuff is
I was going
sellable.
to say, so they can go on any of your sites and grab your
Hmm.
beats if they wanted to. Yep. If you
Yeah.
need some music for it's by purchasing it, they have the license and they're good.
Yeah,
Is that how that?
so exactly. So
Mhm.
so Great Media Music, if you need film, independent filmmakers, other media outlets, if you're doing video games, all that stuff. If you are a singer, hip hop, whatever, instrumentalist, and you need songs and beats and things like that, that's on westmusicpro.com, and that's linked with BeatStars. You get all the license, you can put it up.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna have to show this to my son because my son is now doing all kinds of. He has his YouTube channel, and he does a combination of music production. He also does kind of these video montages
Mhm.
of asking some very audacious questions
Okay. Okay.
of just kind of life, like what is learning. He has a video. It's Please don't take this the way, but it says learning is dumb. It isn't that. That's just a way to grab the
Grab,
attention.
yeah, yeah,
But
clickbait.
right. But he's attempting to kind of show from a 19, 20-year-old perspective
Hmm.
these systems that we have that exist
Yep,
and challenging them. And how they are not
as he
necessarily
should.
serving, yep,
Yep.
not necessarily serving him. So, but he also does music. So he gets all kinds of beats and stuff. I'm like, wow, they've got some good stuff out in the world. So make sure y'all are
But
checking
as an
out.
educator, if you take my classes, you actually get the real deal.
Get the
So, and
real.
you can ask any of my students. I break it down to them. I don't hide nothing. I tell them the truth, and we go hard.
And we didn't mention that, but you are a professor
Hmm.
at Bowie State University in Maryland. So
Tenured
tenured. Yes.
associate professor.
Awesome. That is amazing. You are amazing. And I mean, he's doing all this
Thank you.
plus being a tenured professor. And I say that so those of you who are listening who want to grab a class, want to look over at Bowie State, you just have a lot of and not even you have your own courses. You have a lot of
Hmm.
just a wealth of information. So I hope that those of you who are into music, who are artists, who want to learn more from Dr. Smith, you can head over to any of the social media or the websites, that he has. This is my last question, then we're going to go into our bonus because he is going to offer more specific advice to artists, but you got to be on the Patreon. So it's just $5 a month, guys. It's not like real deep, but that way you can watch the video because we're here
Get more
talking on
info.
video. Yep. And get a little bit more info. But before we do that bonus, what's a theme song for you? What's a song that pumps you up, that just makes you feel like, yes, I got this? And I know this is a hard question for musicians because
So it fluctuates from time to time, but as of late, a song that's really got me, and like I said, my brain fires on a lot of different things. It's a piece by Pat Metheny
hmm,
entitled "Gathering Sky,"
gatherings. I love that title.
and it has a very complex melody that's very simple,
Yeah,
and
that's what he does. He's really
that's
good
what I
at that.
love. That's what I love. I love it.
Right.
And yeah, it just and it hits me, and as he takes it up to the end, he
Uh-huh.
has a way of doing that. Like he
Yes, he
likes to
does.
build, and I love
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes. I love the simplicity, complexity components when
that's my jam.
me
Yeah,
too. Me too. Well, this has been wonderful. And like I said,
yeah.
Will and I go way back, so we really could go on and on, but we're going to save some more for the bonus. But thank you again
Thank you
for
for
lending your
having
time.
me.
Absolutely. It's always good to be in this podcast world with you.
It's awesome to support you. I'm glad to see you building this thing, and I'm here. Got to
Uh,
support it. If you want, just holler.
uh, Thank you. I know. I was like, I told him I've been a stranger in his window, but he still comes out and supports. So awesome. So, listeners, this will be it for our regular. If you're on Patreon, join us over there and we'll continue the conversation. So, you guys take care.
Take care.
Bye. And now for the bonus. All right. So we
Bonus
have just
round. Ding
bonus
ding ding ding
round.
ding.
Ding 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 ding. We only have like 10 minutes. So we don't
Gotcha.
have very long in our bonus. But I wanted you, yeah, for those who are watching, what advice would you give to help people step more into their voice, particularly those artists who are maybe struggling with just going full fledged
Right.
into this world?
Um, just get as much study as you can. I know for me, it took a minute. I'm a very, I wouldn't say slow learner, but
Mm-hmm.
I need to see things from a whole bunch of perspectives before I feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other artists are that way. But when I feel comfortable, when I think I've got it, it's not. I'm not lacking in the confidence thing. Once I've
Mm-hmm.
got it, I'll jump on it. I'll do it. And I may be terrible coming out the gate. Like when I was playing, I was terrible when I first started playing
Oh, don't
saxophone.
say it. Don't
I
say it.
understood what I was supposed to be doing, but
I
I
wasn't
was
doing it.
terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad. But then eventually, you know, it clicks. You just got to keep at it and got to keep at it. And I've applied that to pretty much all the things I've tried to learn. You just got to keep at it. And sometimes it takes forever.
Yeah.
And there's things that I'm learning now that are taking forever. ever, and it's annoying as heck. But I just know from experience, because I've mastered one craft. I've been
Yeah.
able to say that I've mastered one craft,
Yeah.
and I know that how long it took me to get to that point. So I'm not really stressed. I do get stressed sometimes about it. I'm like, dang man, how long does it take to learn this thing? I shouldn't be better about now, you know. But yeah.
I love you saying that though, because I think, particularly as artists, because you're using so much of gifting, right? So this idea of having to keep learning and being patient with yourself with that can be, because again, as an artist, there are a lot of giftings that kind of just come naturally. So now to push you in zones where you actually have to really practice and really learn and be patient with it can be really hard. I mean, like incredibly hard. So I'm so glad that you said, learn, like keep learning, keep being in that.
Keep studying, keep practicing, and be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Because I beat myself up all the time, and I've learned to change the language, and it's got to be, if you haven't mastered one thing, I know why it is nerve wracking,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you just got to stick with it. Some people are late bloomers.
Yeah.
Just look at the people who've succeeded after 50.
Here we go. This is why I did
Uh,
this podcast, is really because those who are listening who maybe think they're over 40 and it's too late to be an artist, it's too late
mhm,
to really step into their craft, whether it be music or it be another form of art. No, it wasn't until I was 40 that I actually really grabbed this and started doing, what people know me now more publicly to do. So that was after 40. That wasn't before
mhm,
40. So,
yep.
yeah.
It takes a while sometimes.
It does. It does. Well, my last question for you is, and I'm sure, I mean, I could ask you so many things. So, what is something I did not ask you that you wish I would have? Or what is something that you want people just to know about you that we haven't really discussed?
That's a tricky, hard one. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I mean, we covered the music stuff, we covered the educational stuff, covered the spiritual stuff. I mean, we didn't go as far as we
I'm
could.
not saying we could go real far with that,
We
but
go real deep with that, but yeah, no, I mean, it's just a matter of for me, I'm always in constant development, and I think, but you got to take your wins. You gotta
mm,
you got to know when you have a win and be thankful for it, tout it, share it, and own it,
yeah.
and keep building on the wins. It's just like sport. If you win a tournament, you got to, celebrate it, and
Mhm.
know that, a lot of people didn't make it to something like that. So you're successful. So you got to just keep building on wins, and that's sort of what I'm doing now. It's like, having some of these placements. It's awesome.
Huge. It's
Like this
huge.
is this year was a really good one. I had a lot of like stuff in Brazil.
Wow.
Oh yeah, well that
Wow.
might be the one of the things. So my trailer tracks, like I told you, I was developing my trailer tracks,
Mhm.
and I took like 8 months to study how to make trailer music, and I finally got it down, and I made a whole bunch of different trailer tracks, and
Awesome.
they never got used. So I'm like, these things are sitting on my computer. So I upload them to the library that I work with, and I see that a company, some show in Brazil. Unfortunately, they can't tell me who it is, but they used one of
Yeah.
my trailer tracks, and it was awesome. That
Ah.
I got a trailer track used, and then I got called to. There was a school, a friend of mine from Howard.
Mhm.
Um, his wife does work with foster kids to make film, teaches them how to make film, and they had
Okay.
5 student films that they needed trailers for. I
Oh,
just used all of my
boom,
trailer tracks for that,
boom.
and they got use. So it was like, and I
It's
got paid.
never for naught. It's just
So
never for naught.
it's never
It's
for nothing.
yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm glad that you said that because we did not get to dig into all of your placements and how that is going given
Yeah,
your intention in that
yeah.
space. So thank you for sharing that. So
You're welcome.
wow. Well, this has been wonderful. I knew
Yep,
it would be. And
yep.
I love you so much. So I
I
appreciate
love you
you.
back.
for
Yes,
doing this and
it's all fam.
taking
So
your
we're glad.
Friday, because yeah, professors don't be working on Fridays. So, taking that Friday to
We
chat with
we
me for
work.
an
We do
hour.
have our research day.
Okay. No, that's all right. I understand. Listen, I work at a university, although our Fridays are, I don't know. I'm teaching this Friday on Fridays. But anyway, but that's awesome. So thank you. Those of you who are watching, I hope that you got a lot out of this. Make sure that you are checking out his music, going to West Music Pro or to greatmediamusic.com, so that you can check things out and grab some goods. So I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah, have an amazing week. Those of you who are watching, by the time this airs, I don't know, it'll be just have an amazing week. For us, we're pre-recording, so have a good weekend. It's a holiday weekend that we're
Yep.
recording. Awesome, awesome. All right, stay right here, but we're going to end the broadcast. All right, thanks.
Thanks.